Hello and welcome back for another video in my series Start from Scratch with the Boss RC600 LoopStation. Hopefully you've been following along in this series. We're up to video number 7 now. If you haven't watched some of the previous ones, it might be worthwhile to go back and review a few of them, or just continue with this one if you already have a good background with what you're doing with your RC600. Basically what we've done is switched everything from global to per memory status, so that everything that happens in memory number 1 is going to be unique to memory number 1. When I go to memory number 2, nothing will have the same settings, and I'll be able to show you a completely different configuration at that point. Anyway, in this video, we are going to do some initial loop configuration settings, and we will have a look at all of the different options that would make the 6 loops work the way that you expect them to work. There are a number of different settings, of course, and many various settings have to work in conjunction with other settings in order to get the action that you actually want when you are live looping, or when you are performing using instruments, or whatever you may be doing. So there's a number of different ways to do this. From here on in, you could branch your configuration 100 different ways, and this particular setup is going to be just for using a single microphone, a single guitar, and making all of my loops have particular functions. Let's get right into it and we'll have a look. We're going to go into, let me give you a different view of the LCD screen. Let's go into the loop menu, and we see track settings, record settings, play settings, and there would be more if I scroll on. Let's go into track, and we are currently looking at track 1. The first screen of settings, I can play a track in reverse, have it play once with one shot. I can pan the track to left or right, or leave it as default in the center. The play level is here as well. That lets me select the volume at which I want my tracks to play. Well, when you are at 100, basically that is a unison sort of a level, and that means that the level that's coming in would be about the same as the level that's coming out. And so it's roughly equal to your live playing. I'm going to back that down a little bit, so track 1 is going to be a little bit quieter so that it doesn't compete with my live playing. I'm going to set it at maybe 80, and of course I'll probably adjust it as we go. Now, scrolling over to the next screen, I have a start mode, currently set to immediate. The only other option is to fade, and that means fade in. I don't want it to fade in, so I'm going to leave it on immediate, meaning when I start the track, it will start playing right now. The next option is a stop mode, also default set to immediate. Well, that means that when I want to play the song and I hit the command to stop the track, it's going to stop right now. Usually, I would want it to play until the end of that current loop. So if I turn the dial, I can see that I have the option to fade it out when I press the stop command, or I can have it play to the end of the loop. And that's what I want to have for most of the time with most of my tracks. The dub mode, currently set to overdub. Of course, what that means is while the track is playing and I'm playing another loop, another layer on top of it, overdub will add what I'm playing to the track that I already have. If I change it to replace number 1, what that means is that it will play the track, and as I'm playing live, it will record the new material and erase the previous track. So it'll be the last time you heard that track, and it'll be what you're currently playing as you overdub. It's not really overdubbing anymore, it's now called replace. If I go to replace 2, then when I am playing a track and then I hit the record button for that track to put down the next layer, it will not play the track that's currently recorded, and it will record my new live playing and replace what was on that track with a new one without playing what is currently there. So I can play the track that is there and replace it, or I can not play that track and replace it. But I want to leave it on overdub so that I don't erase anything while I'm playing live. I just want to add a second layer to my track. And that's what I think most people are doing. So dub mode, you want to typically leave it on overdub. It's actually able to be put onto a foot switch so that you can change it on the fly. So that's really interesting, and we'll look at that in a future video. Effects, I definitely want that turned on for track effects so that it will be able to participate in any effects that I activate. Scrolling to the next screen, you got multi-mode or single mode, and of course on track 1 I want that to basically be a rhythm track, and I want it to play while I'm working with other tracks that may be in single mode or may be also in multi-mode. So my first track that I record, I don't know if I'm going to play well, how many measures it's going to be. I'm going to probably leave it on free because it could typically be could be any length. I do tend to keep my tracks short for my first track at least, so I could put it on 1 or 2 or auto. I'll leave it on free for now. Loop sync, I want it to be on, and what that does is it makes sure that this track 1, is going to use loop sync to determine where its starting point is. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we go on into the next tracks. Loop length for sync mode, I want that probably set to measure. And now it's gonna be something you can experiment with depending on how you play. You can have it on the immediate or measure or loop length. And I think measure is probably the most useful one to use. Scrolling on to the next screen, I see tempo sync, and that is switched on. I'm going to turn that off. X-fade and speed change, I'm going to leave those alone for now. That function will be off. Bounce in is going to be off, and we will get into that further later on. Now, at the end of the screen at the end of the multiple screens for track settings, you can select what inputs are going to go to this track, and it's only track 1. And on track 1, I'm going to either use a microphone or mic 2 I won't be using, or I'll be using instrument 1 left. That's my main guitar. I'm going to have only mic 1 and instrument 1 left able to be recorded, and the rest I will turn off so that nothing else ends up accidentally on track 1. And now that's all of the settings available for any particular track, and that's all just for track 1. Let's back up again to the beginning of this list, and we're going to go now to track 2. And the way to do that is to press the loop button, and now we're on track 2. And here, these 4 settings, I don't need to change any of those, and there's a faster way to go through all of these screens. When you're on any of these screens, you just press the loop button again to go to track 3, and all of these same settings are there. I'm not touching any of them. Track number 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to leave all of these alone on all of those tracks. Actually, no, that's not true. On track 2, I'm going to bring my play level down to about 80 again. Just about forgot about that, sorry. And track 3, my play level will be 80. and they'll be adjusted as I practice up a little bit and check everything and test all of my levels and whatnot. Those track levels will be adjusted slightly. And so track number 4, track number 5, down to 80. And it actually is much faster. Track number 6 is faster if you press the button down and then turn it, and it goes down by tens. So that's much faster. Now, scrolling, let's go back to track 1 again, and we're going to go over to the next screen. I've already set these 4 commands for track 1. Let's go to track 2, and it's immediate. The stop mode, again, I want it to go to the end of the loop. Dub mode can stay the same, effects can stay the same. So track 3, let's make sure that all of my tracks play until the end of the loop when you hit the stop button. And track 4, track 5. Now track 6, typically, if you've seen a video I made a few months back, you can bounce other tracks over to a new track and have that track set to fade out. And that's what I want to do with track 6, as I did with that video. If you haven't seen that, just check my channel and you should be able to find it using bounce to fade out. It's a pretty informative video, I hope. Anyway, I'm going to leave track 6 to be a fade out channel. And now back to track 1. Scrolling over to the next screen, these settings are going to possibly be a bit different as I go through. So track 1 is in multi-mode, free, loop sync is on, and I've set it to measure. Scrolling to track 2 is in also multi, and now I want this track to be the same as track 1. And the way to achieve that is to set it to auto. So the measure length is going to be on auto, and that means it'll use what's already been determined. Now loop sync will be on, and loop length I'm going to change to per measure. Going to track 3. Track 3, it's kind of a track that I would change in different memories to be set for a different type of song that I might play. I'm going to leave it for this channel, for this memory, as in multi-mode. Also set it to auto, and loop sync is going to be set to measure. Track 4 is going to be single mode, and the measure is going to be free because who knows how long that's going to end up being. So loop sync is going to be on, and it's going to be set to measure. Track number 5, same thing. It's going to be set to single and auto, and loop sync mode is going to be measure. Track number 6, that's the one that's going to be my bounce channel. So when I do that, I would like all of the other stuff to turn off, but I won't be able to turn off the multi-mode channels. I'll have to find a command that can do that. So it's going to be set to single mode, and I'm going to leave that as free because I don't know how long that's going to end up being. Well, the fade out command will decide how long it fades out, but we don't know how long I'm going to let the bounce continue. So that's going to have to be on set to free. Loop sync is on, and loop length set to measure. Loop sync set to measure. And that is it for that screen. Setting back to track 1, the next screen, tempo sync, I turned it off and I left everything else as it was. So let's go through the 6 tracks, and I'm going to turn it off. Tempo sync is off. On track 3, track 4 it's off, track 5 it's off, and track 6 is off. Tempo sync, I don't need it to be synced to anything for what I'm going to be doing. Now, back to track 1, scrolling over to the next screen. I've selected mic 1 or instrument 1 left to be the only inputs. On track 2, you have to go through each and every track and select what you want to be recorded on that track. And on track 2, I want it to have the same settings as track 1. So just microphone 1 and instrument 1 left is going to be left activated. All of the rest will be turned off. Just mic 1 and instrument 1 left. Going on to track number 3, well, this track, typically I'll either just use a shaker or some cymbal crashes or something, so I just want to have microphone 1 available to be recorded. It's one of the multi-track, or one of the multi-mode tracks, and I just wanted to get the microphone. So, on track 4, that's the first single mode track, and I want to turn off the microphones and just have it pick up acoustic guitar. So while I'm doing the song, I'm playing a verse or a chorus, I could capture a piece of what I'm playing and then use that to loop while I do some leads over top of it, as well as track 5. Same thing, it's in single mode, and I just want to capture a guitar part for soloing later on. And now that takes us to track 6. And that I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use as my bounce track. And so all that I want available on my bounce track is some tracks that are already made, and I will specify what tracks are going to end up on my bounce track at that time. So I'm going to turn off all of the inputs for track 6. I don't want any of my live playing or singing to end up on that track. So that is it for all of the tracks, for as far as that goes, the track sub-menu under loop. Next, I have record and play, but I'm going to save that for the next video because I don't want these videos to get too long on everybody. For now, I'm going to end it here, and if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, one more thing. We do now have to remember to write and save so that we don't lose any of those changes. I'll have to try harder to remember to do that in the future. So, have yourself a great night. We'll talk again soon. Bye now.